He's Mr. Fox Sports, co-host of First Things First on Fox Sports 1 and What's Right with Nick Wright on Sirius XM. Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. What an honor to be on this show the first time. Technically I've been on once before, but it's when that goofball Chris Mannix was hosting, so it doesn't count. So I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Let's talk about Dak Prescott and this contract here. No, I was just kidding. We don't
I got takes. I got
oh,
takes.
you do?
Want
okay.
them?
Yeah.
I got no.
Give me your give me your take.
Top 10 is about right. I'd say somewhere from the 8 to 12 range. The worry is you want to pay the 8th to 12th best quarterback in football like he's the best quarterback in football. And if you want me to expand for 2.5 hours on that, I can do it, or we can talk about more interesting things.
Let's get to LeBron James.
Sure, yeah. I mean, legacy on the line. Obviously, if they win the title, people put an asterisk. If not, people will say it totally counts. The asterisk conversation all about him. What else you got? I can spitfire these quick.
Oh, I know. We were talking about Dak Prescott here, and I said I don't know if he'll ever have the numbers to live up to his contract. I think this will be about winning. And like Russell Wilson, it's about winning. It's not about gaudy numbers. There are other quarterbacks who will have that. I think that Dak Prescott has to win, and that'll validate everything. What do you think?
I think that's about right. I guess it just depends on is winning only winning a Super Bowl? Because that's going to be a tough putt. Does winning mean consistently winning the division, making the conference championship game, which the Cowboys haven't been in a quarter century? Is that bar? If he clears that, does he validate it? Probably. I just feel like, listen, every team in the NFC has been to a Super Bowl this century, except for Washington, Detroit, at least a conference championship game this century, I should say, Washington, Detroit, and Dallas. They have this air of greatness because, some folks talk about them all the time. I don't know who they are, that they haven't necessarily earned over the last 25 years. So, if they get to a conference championship game, it's a hell of an accomplishment.
Would Jerry Jones fire himself?
So how about this? If Steven had done the job Jerry did, Jerry would have fired his son.
Yeah.
No question in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the closest person in the world to him had done this job, he'd have been removed a long time ago. So, yes, I agree with you.
I don't know if it's because you have to do this every day like I do, and I don't know if it's felt like a blur or it feels like it's just been interminable. How would you sum up the last 3 months?
I would say everything pre-George Floyd felt like almost a day-to-day grind that all blurred together. It was slow, but it was hard to differentiate days. And, since May 25th, I would say for me personally, I've gone through such a roller coaster of being as depressed, despondent, and hopeless as I've maybe ever felt as an adult, watching the nightly police brutality like it was a feature film. And then almost immediately around the time that Goodell released his statement, and then Mitt Romney is saying Black Lives Matter, and then it feels like, oh my God, where there was no movement for a few years, now all of a sudden people are getting it. And that has made me feel hopeful. But then you have moments like last night, and it's like, hey, by the way, there's a noose in Bubba Wallace's locker. And it's like, damn it, man. But I separate coronavirus into pre and post George Floyd, because for a month there, the global pandemic wasn't even the biggest story in the world.
I know you've mentioned this. We're talking to Nick Wright, co-host of First Things First on Fox Sports 1. Your friendship with Colin Kaepernick, and the last time you spoke to him, and will we have anything coming from Colin Kaepernick that would be football related anytime soon?
I don't know. I'll be totally candid. The last time Colin and I spoke was, because this is the type of person he is, about a month into the pandemic. He reached out to me and said, Nick, Nessa and I just want to make sure you and your wife and kids are doing okay. Do you need anything? That was the last time he and I had communication. That was obviously pre what Roger Goodell said. I reached out to him after what Roger Goodell said, and I haven't heard back. But that is not that surprising. Our relationship has really never been based about his football career. And so I almost felt a little embarrassed even asking him, but I felt like I had an obligation if he wanted to say something. I think he gave his statement that people, maybe wasn't perfectly delivered when he did that tryout. and he said, stop running. I do think it would be in his best interest if he gave another statement along the lines of, we've now had Pete Carroll say they should have signed me. Anthony Lynn said I should be worked out. The commissioner has no problem with it. I'm available to be worked out. I think what he and his agent would tell you is they know he's available. He's been available. He's wanted to play for the last 3 years. Just because the rest of the world's catching up to his cause doesn't mean there's more of an onus on him.
And I didn't know how he would take this, Nick, because I looked at it and said, well, what has changed? People's perception maybe, or maybe they've come to the realization that they were the one, he was blackballed. Kaepernick hasn't changed. He's just gotten older here, and he's got to look at this and go, wait, you're going to have me come back, and are you really going to give me, now you're going to give me a legitimate tryout, but is it going to feel like a legitimate tryout for him?
Listen, there is such immense mistrust on both sides here. I know that some of his biggest advocates behind the scenes in the league felt betrayed by the lawsuit. Now, I don't know that they should have, but I know that they did. Some folks that were like, man, we were working on your behalf because we saw what was going on. I know Colin feels like the tryout was a total sleight of hand set up just to undercut future lawsuits. And I actually think that tryout, which maybe it was an olive branch, maybe it was an olive branch with some strings attached, set this further back. That if that had never happened, maybe we would be closer along. And I do think from a football perspective, one thing I'll say is, for a long time, when folks didn't want to acknowledge he's being blackballed, people said, well, he's too good to be a backup. Well, that's probably not true anymore. He's out of football for 3 years. Well, I think he's going to be too expensive. Well, I don't believe that's true anymore either, because he's drawn $0 from the NFL for 3 years. I don't think he's going to be like $10 million or I'm not playing. And the last one was, your backup needs to stylistically be similar to your starter. Now, I don't know that I ever believed that. Lamar stepped in for Flacco and they took off. But if that is true, we now have a third of the league with kind of a dual threat quarterback. We have more starters like that than ever. My defending champion Chiefs have a dual threat quarterback. Their backup's Chad Henne. He's thrown 5 passes in 5 years, and he's not a dual threat guy. So you would think the football reasons, if those were ever part of the reason he was out of the league, those are opening up a bit.
Two-pronged question. Do you think he gets an offer? And do you think he would accept an offer?
Let me answer the second part first. I 100% believe he would accept an offer.
Okay.
I believe that Colin Kaepernick did not think he was sacrificing his career when he started taking a knee. I think he thought he was. I don't think many of us thought, well, he's going to be thrown out of football. He's going to be blackballed. And in the months leading up to the 2017 season, if you said, I think he's being blackballed, you were called a fool. You were said, no, it's money, or it's wait for someone to get hurt, or, well, he's got to learn the system. And then Jacoby Brissett got traded for and played 8 days later. It was all these things. And so I think Colin has put his money and his actions where his mouth is on what matters to him. But I know for a fact he loves football. And I don't think he ever believed, I'm never going to be able to run out of that tunnel again. I don't think it ever occurred to him. I think he thought what I thought. There's not enough quality quarterbacks. Dude was in the Super Bowl 2 years prior. Like, he's going to get a job. There might be a few teams that say we don't want him. And so, yes, I believe he would absolutely jump on an opportunity to play. I don't think it's 0% he gets the opportunity like I would have told you 3 weeks ago. But I don't think it's good. I don't think it's above 20%.
What I hate hearing, Nick, is, Doug Peterson, hey, we'd think about bringing him in. Pete Carroll, hey, Anthony Lynn. I want to hear an offer. I don't want to. It's like all the people who said, we were going to draft Russell Wilson. We thought about taking Russell. Well, you didn't. So I don't want to hear that people, hey, we'd be open to it. Well, then do it. I don't want to hear it. Almost like you're covering your ass here.
Yeah, and there's always been a level of dishonesty in this whole conversation, because now that Black Lives Matter is no longer it's still a controversial statement, but you've got the majority of American support, and people are no longer trying to change the message on the kneeling and forget the history that he started kneeling, as you know, very well know, because Nate Boyer said, hey, this will resonate better. Nate Boyer, Navy SEAL, or I'm sorry, Green Beret, will resonate better than sitting. And now what you hear is folks love to bring up two things, the socks and the shirt. And that's the new thing. And maybe I missed the memo where police became the one group of people we can't poke fun at. Lawyers and used car salesmen would have loved to know there are jobs that are off limits to make fun of. There's a whole industry of lawyer jokes. And then the other one is, all right, well, the Castro shirt. And I love hearing people talk about the Castro shirt right after they do a segment. So excited to see Mike Tyson's next fight, who has a Chairman Mao tattoo. Like, these people don't actually care about these things. They just don't like Cap. And so they're using a different cudgel to use against it.
I wonder if he'll get nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm being serious.
Oh.
I'm being serious. I don't know enough about it other than if you look at the change that's happened and maybe the change that's going to continue to happen, and can we take it back to a guy who knelt, who took a knee? I don't know. I throw that out there.
I do think where Colin was very consistent was his protest was not about something intangible or indefinable such as systemic racism, which while is a blight, it has its tentacles in so many different things. It's very hard to unpack. His protest was about a very specific thing: police brutality against communities of color and a system of policing that encourages it. And folks didn't want to hear it at the time. But then post George Floyd, when we saw, even when these police forces knew they were on camera, couldn't help themselves. And by the way, it wasn't just communities of color. There's that poor 75-year-old man in Buffalo, the 16-year-old girl, I think, in Cleveland. I think all of a sudden, folks saw what they couldn't see during Ferguson. During Ferguson, it was just black folks getting beat on. And it was just one police force. And now when you see it nationwide, I do think if we do move towards nationwide police reform, he absolutely deserves a tremendous amount of credit for focusing the conversation there.
Before I let you go, the most serious question. Some of my guys, the Danettes, they're kind of split down the middle on the length of your hair. Like, they would like for you to go back and maybe...
I should go back.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something right now? I certainly should go back as long as I'm doing the show from my house and I have to do my hair on my own. Dan, my hair was shaved a year ago. Look at this.
Oh, I know.
This is an outrage. It's ridiculous. Every morning I just mat it down. I don't know what I'm doing. I also feel like I look cooler with the shaved head. So yeah, as soon as I can get to a barber again, I'm either gonna have him fix it or shave it. I don't know which.
Wait,
your hair looks immaculate as always.
Isn't your wife a stylist?
Yeah, but not hair. She does clothes. My wife, Fashion Bird, Freebird, I should say. Yeah, Freebird actually is her company. Yeah, people can find her online. Yeah, she does clothes. She does some interior decorating. She does not do hair and makeup. And so I'm just, okay. And by the way, my family's out of town. They left me on Father's Day to go spend it with people they like more. So I'm here all by myself, just sitting here talking to you, dealing with this hair.
Are you lonely?
They left yesterday. I was a little down. I was like, of all the days you're gonna leave on Father's Day. Sweet, but okay, whatever, it happens. But then Dan Patrick reached out to me, and I was like, well, this is one of my radio fathers, so it kind of picked me back up.
You look a little like Nick Cage. Yeah.
I'll take any I look like. I always feel like when other people are like, you look like Nick. The only one I don't like, I know you got to go. There's a soccer player named Frank Ribery who people say I look like. I think he's French. But his only really noticeable trait other than his nose is a facial scar. And I'm like, I don't even have that. They're just saying I'm so funny looking. I look like a guy who everyone's like, oh, he's the guy with the scar on his face. I don't have the scar on my face. I'm just funny looking.
Keep fighting the good fight there. And
thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Nick. Great to talk to you.
See you later.
All right.
You too.
That's Nick Wright, co-host of First Things First on Fox Sports 1 and also What's Right with Nick Wright on Sirius XM Mad Dog channel.